Welcome back. While the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse is worried the state of disaster will be used to push through an emergency contract with Karpowership, it's engaged in a legal battle with regulator NERSA over licences granted to the Turkish Karpowership. Outa wants the decisions that led to the declaration of a state of disaster to be set aside. For more on this, we're joined now by Outa's legal project manager, Brendan Slade. Brendan, thank you so much for your time this morning. Perhaps you can give us context in terms of the concerns that have been raised by Outa when it comes to this Karpowership deal, because it's been in the media for quite some time now. And of course, it's conversations around will government, won't government, will government, won't government. Where is Outa's stance on this, and what exactly are you concerned about?
Good morning, Faith. Thanks for having me this morning. Yes, obviously, the Karpowership debacle is very controversial. We are currently in an energy crisis, and the rhetoric out there is that Karpowership will get rid of load shedding. That is absolutely a big misconception. Recently, Karpower won the bid for 1,200 megawatts worth of power generation. We are currently enrolled in a legal review application, setting aside the approvals by NERSA to grant the generation licenses. We argue, amongst others, that it is completely overkill for government to consider something like Karpowerships. Not only because it will take extremely long to come on board, it is not a matter of plug and play. The main issue is the cost to the economy over a 20-year period. So just when we launched the application, the cost to generate 1 kilowatt hour from Karpowership was at around R1.50. It escalated up at the time of launch to around R2.50. And we now we have now confirmed with our experts that we consulted that this price for the gas per 1 kilowatt hour is now at R5. So we also need to consider the conflict currently in the Ukraine. It's pushing up demand for gas. It's pushing up, obviously, then the price as well. So it's completely irrational for South Africa to tie itself up with the current supply and demand crisis, as well as the fluctuating exchange rate.
So in other words, we are about to pay exorbitantly high prices for something that we could perhaps find a better alternative to by maybe capacitating the base load that we currently have in the country?
Yes, no, that's correct. It is obviously much cheaper to do that. And one of the cheapest options and the fastest options is obviously renewable energy. The other thing with Karpowership, once that deal lapses, the ships can literally just pack up and leave. So that will then leave South Africa without the generation capacity that we ought to build out right now. So we need rollout of new power stations, of new IPPs, and particularly in renewable energy.
So now there's also this concern that the natural state of a disaster on energy will allow for government, for example, to make far-reaching decisions without parliamentary oversight. I would guess that from Outa's perspective, you've seen it manifest in the COVID-19 pandemic and the manner in which people were enriching themselves as well as their pockets at the expense of the broader population. And is this the concern that you're having now with this national state of disaster on energy?
No, absolutely. The credibility of government speaks for itself. We have seen what happened with the COVID-19 debacle. However, it's quite ironic that a national state of disaster was announced last week, and since then, no new regulations have been published. So it's obviously of grave concern to Outa and the public at large. But we cannot speculate exactly what these regulations can entail. But history is the best teacher in this regard. If we look back at COVID-19, complete abuse of power, misuse of public funds, which ought to be utilized to address the crisis.
Yeah. Are there alternatives, plans within government's reach, or perhaps even resources, maybe let's use that word, resources within government's reach, where actually we can find a tangible solution to the energy crisis instead of always seeking some kind of external capacity? Like, do we have ways of being able to solve our crisis with the resources that we've got within our arsenal instead of always seeking some kind of outside backing?
That's a very good question. Just the one part of your question, we already have the proper legal framework to address the problem. It's a matter of fact that government has been depleted of resources, and in this regard, the private sector and South African citizens at large also needs to be part of the solution. So yes, we sit with dominant Eskom as the national power utility for South Africa, but in order to supplement that generation capacity, it would definitely require the inputs, investment from third parties, from the private sector, from South Africa at large. We also need to be cognizant of the fact that there are plans in place currently. We have the integrated resource plan, that is yet another plan that was published by government with proposed solutions. We have the energy action plan that was announced by the president in July 2022. The National Energy Act provides for these solutions, as well as the Electricity Regulation Act, in terms of which Minister Gwede Montage can publish regulations for new generation capacity, streamlining bid processes for this additional capacity to come online. So bottom line is, it's an unfortunate state that we are in. SOEs are crumbling left, right, and center. The way forward for South Africa is all hands on deck, and the private sector is one of the best options going forward.
So then how does Outa stop it? If the intent is to stop this Karpowership deal from materializing, how far are you in being able to achieve that goal?
Well, currently we've got 2 court applications pending. The one court application is the urgent application that we have issued against the declaration of the state of disaster. Last year, we issued a review application to set aside the decisions granted by NERSA to approve the 3 Karpowership generation licenses. So we are currently in that. Both the litigation processes are running parallel. They are not related to each other per se. But where we are currently with the review application as far as Karpowership is concerned, we have lodged an additional application to compel, in which we wish to force NERSA and Karpowership to produce the record of the decision. Up to this stage, it has been very ambiguous. We do not have the proper reasons behind the decision. And we do believe that once these reasons are made public, not only for purposes of Outa pursuing the litigation further, but for the public, we will be in a much better position to tackle the matter going forward.
Brendan Slade from Outa, much appreciated for your time this morning. Of course, we're definitely going to see how this story unfolds. Let's go to this story.